them all the time.
Yo guys, the Nightfall this week is Inverted Spire, and let me go ahead and say we have two different modifiers, or well, one that is the same and then another that's different. Prism is still back, so some of you that didn't like this elements swapping every 30 seconds, it's still there. And Time Warp Rings is a new one for me, but essentially it's just these rings that will appear throughout the entire map, man, that you can go through. Now, we'll say something about the area where there's the drill. That seemed to just kind of bring about the most rings. Now, for the most part, I didn't really need any of the rings. You know, we went through them just to see what it did. It does add on 30 seconds to the clock. And so if you're like in really dire need of actually adding on some time, you can go and pass through them. But I will say a lot of this strike can just be pushed forward. Like, you don't really have to kill much of anything except for a couple phases there where you actually have to kill the mobs of enemies, but the rest of it you can skip. You don't, this isn't like the last strike where you want to kill as much stuff as you can to add on time to the clock. In this strike, you really just want to push past as many enemies as possible and get to the boss and gun them down. Let me mention some of the weapons that I'm using right here. I'm using Midnight Shade, which is probably, I think, my favorite PvE, or not Midnight Shade, Nameless Midnight is probably my favorite scout rifle of all the scout rifles I've received in Destiny 2 thus far in terms of PvE. I'm also using a Tone Patrol, which is another favorite of mine as well. This one actually is really good because it's got good vertical precision, but it also has precision kills create an elemental damage explosion. So it's essentially like Firefly, but of course it does its Dragonfly perk in tangent with whatever your element is. So if you want to go Arc, Solar, Void, whatever that may be. As far as my power that goes, I am using Borelius, and that is a sniper rifle that is exclusive to the PlayStation 4. I specifically like that one because it's a high impact sniper, but you can rotate out the different elements on it by holding down square. It makes things really easy, especially in the Prestige Nightfall where there's things that are locked. I like hard light and stuff like that, but you can't go in there and change anything out and lock loadouts in the Prestige part of Nightfall. So something to just keep in mind. Well guys, that is the Nightfall for you fellas. Just one thing to mention real quick for going forward on any of your events that you're doing this week. Remember, in between things like this, especially after doing the Nightfall, you really want to go out and actually level up the rest of your gear with some blues, whether that's turning in tokens or whatever else. But make sure you get your infusion in, that way the rest of your gear is leveled up before picking up your Luminous Ingrams. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, before you pick them up from the vendor, remember, Luminous Ingrams actually will continue to level as long as you leave them with the vendor, and that's most of all of our Ingrams. The only issue that you may have with leveling those things up is if you actually go ahead and receive them and put them in your inventory. Once they're in their inventory, they are locked at whatever power light level you picked it up. Well guys, that's a Nightfall, man. Very easy, very straightforward, nothing too difficult about it, man. Prestige, on the other hand, I'm going to be doing that later this afternoon. That one's going to be probably another animal as well as the last Nightfall's Prestige. But if you like this video, man, definitely hit that like button for me. If you want this to become a regular thing each week, we can do that, man. Guys, as always, thank you so much for coming and watching. I'll catch y'all later.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.